what was day zero of Apache Pulsar's community like? You know, you have a piece of technology that is being used at Yahoo. What was that first next step of shopping that around to other people?
Yeah, so I think when the project was open source, it was actually put in the GitHub. I think the first couple one is actually kind of coming out from Yahoo's related company. Yahoo Japan is the first one is actually start adopting Pulsar.
So I guess as your business grows, is the two sides of that kind of the SaaS, the SaaS that kind of gets a lot of people in, and then the more self-hosted, on-prem, these kinds of things. How are at this stage in the company, how are you kind of splitting resources towards those two things? How do you decide what gets more attention and where one feature goes? These kinds of things. That's a very broad question.
Yeah, I think at the beginning when we're getting down in this route, we know. I think we are an early startup company that you need to really focus, and obviously you cannot do two sets of things. But we quickly realized that the open core model, you still need to get rid of certain things.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hacking Open Source Business Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Yonkovit, joined by co-host Avi Press, and today I'm wearing the official I Heart Apache Pulsar hat because we have Sijie Guo, the CEO of StreamNative and one of the original founders and creators of Apache Pulsar. Sijie, how are you doing?
Hey everyone. Hey, hi Matt. Hi Avi. Yeah, it's my honor to join the Hacking Open Source Business podcast.
We're excited to have you.
We are excited to have you. Now, Sijie, how we typically start this podcast, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance to listen to any of the others, is yes. I have a list of 173 questions that I'm going to start with. Okay, I never get through all 173, but I keep on trying to get to all 173, and so we're going to try to do it all in less than 10 minutes.
No way.
Maybe I need to reset my expectations. Yes,
that's crazy.
Yeah, but it's really
AI can do that.
There you go.
But CJ bot soon.
Yes, we're gonna get the CJ bot. All right, so this is just to get to know you a little bit. So rapid fire mode. Here we go. What was your first programming language?
Java. Actually, no, C.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite programming language?
Right now, probably Python. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because nowadays I don't write a lot of code. Python is probably the easier one. You don't need to compile.
Fair enough. So what was your first Linux distribution?
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Do you remember what version?
It's 6.5. Oh, I don't remember. I think right now it's 8.10. I don't even know the version.
Yeah, like we're on 20 something, right? 24?
Yeah, 20 something.
24. Yeah, something like that. All right, fair enough. So what kind of phone are you using right now?
iPhone.
iPhone. Okay, so
yeah.
you're
12 Pro. 12 Pro. Yeah, I don't know. I cannot even remember the numbers.
Well, some people are very Android favorite and other people are Apple favorite, so we always have to ask to check that out. And we know that you have been in the open source space for a long time. What's your favorite or most used open source app?
Most open source app, Log4j. I mean, that's everyone. When you develop an application, you need to use Log4j. And obviously, it's also the biggest. I would say the largest. I would say almost everyone is depending on Log4j, and the famous Log4j incident in 2 years ago. That is also caused kind of a panic there as well.
Yeah, that did cause quite a panic. So your favorite open source tool had a bug. Right. So what are you going to do about that, right? So that's always tough when you see that, right?
Yeah.
So what you said you don't write code very often, but when you do write code, what editor are you using?
IntelliJ.
Okay. All right.
Such
fair enough.
a good IDE. So good.
Yeah, it's so I used Eclipse before, but I switched to IntelliJ. So good.
All right, fair enough. So, now that you've kind of crossed over from more of a technical role to an executive, I'm sure that you have the opportunity to either have books recommended to you, recommend books to other folks. Is there a book that you stand out that you think is a really good book that founders or executives should read or check out?
Recently, the kind of checking out a book called Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
Oh, that's a great book. Yes.
Yeah, that is a great book, and it's written in a way you're not talking about theory. You're talking about story and using a kind of a real example to show how build a team. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Laconi, is it? Laconi, I think, is the guy who wrote it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 3 or 4 awesome books. One of the great ones that I found really interesting was it was called Motivation, I think, where he talks, what's your motivation for getting into an executive role? Excellent for those who are either thinking about being in an executive role or want to kind of reaffirm the place that they're at. So good book choice. Good book choice. So when you're going out to a conference, when you're meeting with other folks, is there a type of food that you typically order or look to go to? Like what kind of restaurant or what kind of food is your favorite when you're meeting with folks?
I'm Chinese. I eat everything. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so I prefer Asian food, usually Japanese, Korea, Thai. Because I'm Chinese, so I didn't go to a lot of Chinese food in restaurant. I prefer mom's food or family food.
That's fine. Oh no, hey, there is nothing wrong with getting a good home cooked family meal, right? So there's a lot of times no substitute for that. So if you are out, you're having some of your favorite, sushi or Korean food, Asian food. What are you going to order to drink?
Beer. And
okay.
Usually Asian beer and Japanese, Thai. Usually because they are light, it's unlike the other I would say beer.
Okay, fair enough. What is the most exciting technology that you see coming out in the near future? Like, is there something that you're particularly excited about?
I mean, obviously Pulsar. So, but I'm not. Yeah. We're going to talk about Pulsar a lot, so I'm not going to advertise more. But I mean, definitely AI, GPT is definitely one of the most exciting, I would say, gaming changing. I mean, everyone's talking about this is the iPhone time. This year is the iPhone time. Is that it's going to change the entire how people build software. Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. We were just talking about that earlier today.
Okay.
So me and Avi were discussing, how you could develop an app in a few minutes now, something super simple with just a couple questions. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yep. Crazy.
And so, CJ, you go to a lot of conferences. You actually have your own conference that you build, the Pulsar Summit. And so when you get up on stage early on, you're coming up to the keynote. What music do you tell them to play for you?
That's a good. I don't tell them to play any music, and I think I'm coming from a technical nerd. That is, I don't have a preference of music.
Okay, so anything you will go anything. With whatever they play.
Yeah, whatever they play. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, CJ, we'll end that will be our last question in the rapid fire round. Eventually, we'll get around to the other 100 and some odd questions. But today, we want to focus on Pulsar and StreamNative and kind of your journey. Maybe just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and specifically about Apache Pulsar.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Should we do that before the rapid fire?
Nope.
Right. So everyone, Sijie Guo, one of the co-founders and CEO of StreamNative, worked at Yahoo about 10 years ago. My CTO, Matteo Merli, and I worked together, and we eventually built an internal service called a cloud messaging service. And that was the idea of cloud messaging service was to consolidate different messaging technologies as a company-wide unified platform. And that was running at Yahoo successfully for a couple of years, and eventually open source became contributed to the Apache Software Foundation and became Apache Pulsar. For people who don't know what Apache Pulsar it is you can think about it's the next generation messaging and streaming data platform that is purpose built on top of Kubernetes that is able to support you running the business streaming data across different, I would say, cloud providers and between multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environments. So that's kind of the history. So after working at Yahoo for a couple years, and I relocate all the way from Beijing to San Francisco. I joined Twitter, leading their messaging and streaming infrastructures at Twitter. I'm excited about Twitter. Is you can think about Twitter as the messaging platform for the entire internet. And a lot of business they're building is on top of these streaming ideas. A lot of these ad bidding entirely building on streaming data. It's real time. And I realized, okay, this technology, this platform is actually able to bring tons of revenue to a lot of enterprises. And that's how after working at Yahoo at about kind of around 6 years, I left Twitter, joined a couple co-workers to co-found a company called StreamNative. The idea is to take a bunch of the streaming technologies to building an end-to-end streaming platform to support enterprises. At StreamNative, we kind of incubate the Pulsar in the software and Apache Software Foundation, and that's how we get a community up running there. Unfortunately, that we took an exit in Splunk, which kind of helping Splunk to building some of the streaming data platform there. But I have a real heart on the streaming data technology, and I want to see how I can bring Pulsar to more enterprises to help them successful and to be able to become companies like Yahoo and Twitter to leverage the streaming tech to bring their real value to their customer. And that's how I continue the journey, found StreamNative and working on the Pulsar project and building a product around that. So that's a long introduction, but hopefully give you an idea about myself, about the project, and also the company. Yeah.
Got it. So just to clarify, make sure that I understand. So the technology that became Pulsar was being worked on at Yahoo, and Yahoo was the one that donated that to as like an incubating project in Apache. Did I get that?
That's correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
around kind of 2016, it was late 2016, early 2017. Yahoo donate that to the Apache Software Foundation. They did a lot for their infrastructure software, like the entire Hadoop ecosystem was actually donated by Yahoo to Apache Software Foundation.
So is that like a part of Yahoo's culture to do stuff like that, or was that something that took a lot of convincing, or how did those discussions go?
I think that exactly. I think is Yahoo's culture, and Yahoo became a culture of Silicon Valley. So Yahoo is probably the first company that donating, I would say, the entire Hadoop stack to Apache Software Foundation, and a lot of these companies like LinkedIn, Uber, or even Twitter they open source tons of the project is because they like the culture that is an open culture, and they like to kind of share the information infrastructure to the public, so people can leverage that. And more importantly, for a lot of these infrastructure software, due to the complexity, for a single company, you don't have tons of resources to kind of support and running and improving that infrastructure. So leveraging a broader community that is able to kind of improve that infrastructure and be able to kind of apply the infrastructure across different use cases. You can leverage different workloads to better test that infrastructure, make it really solid and reliable.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me that it seems like there are so many open source companies that kind of incubated at Twitter. It seems like StreamNative was this way. I know like Buoyant with Linkerd had its origins at Twitter. Apache Mesos with D2IQ. maybe some others as well that are not coming to mind at the moment. But like, what was it like being at Twitter with all of this open source as you joined?
Yeah, I was I was my first job was at Yahoo, and all of Yahoo kind of contribute a lot of project to Apache Foundation, but Yahoo still a very large organization. So even at Yahoo, I probably don't feel had direct feeling about how the other organization is working. So when I move from Yahoo to Twitter, it's a much smaller organization. So I see a lot of, especially I'm in the infrastructure platform side, I see a lot of these great teams has been building different technologies there. And I was surprised that almost every single piece of the infrastructure was open source. Like in the RPC side, we have Finango. In the containerization side, we have Mesos. We also open source, I think, bunch of these MySQL related kind of toolings. So I think the culture is probably coming from a lot of these. The first of all is coming from Twitter is being the product itself is being a really public, open platform. And I think that influenced the entire engineering culture. At that point, I think we also have a lot of engineers coming out from Yahoo and also the other kind of Silicon Valley companies. So they bring in a lot of this open culture and really influence the way how engineering team is working within it at Twitter and how we kind of share the technology with the public. And even I think Elon Musk, although I'm not put any comments on Elon Musk, but I think what he did the most crazy thing is open source the entire recommendation algorithms about Twitter. I think that is one thing I think he did great it's kind of respect to the open platform that Twitter was designed for.
Yeah. Matt, do you have a follow-up to that? Okay.
So so let me jump into this. So Twitter and both Yahoo have spun off many different startups, and the original startup that you had talked about coming out of Twitter was StreamNative, right? Which was a new company that was founded, and was it specifically founded around Pulsar as well?
No, at the beginning is actually so Twitter has this open source technology called Storm. It's a streaming computing engine. And at Twitter, we built another kind of a next generation called Heron. So at the beginning, the idea is let's commercialize Heron because in the market there's tons of the open source Storm users, and so the idea is let's found a company around Heron. But we quickly realized if you only have a computing engine, it doesn't solve the problem for a lot of enterprises. So we need to build an end-to-end solution. So I bring in my ex-coworker, Matteo Merli, into StreamNative, and then we start looking into an end-to-end solution. And that's where Pulsar was just donated to the Apache Software Foundation. And so we work together on incubating that project in the Apache Foundation because we need that end-to-end solution.
Okay. And when you were at StreamNative, you were more on the technical side. You weren't in the executive. Okay. And so you were part of the team, and you're like, we're building this cool thing, we're incubating, and then the company got sold. So how was that like? Like what you were thinking, we're going to build this cool thing, and then you ended up somewhere else. That's got to be a little jarring. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
I was one of the co-founder, but I'm more focused on the kind of engineer and technical side, and is more looking into kind of how we building this end-to-end solution. And I think our mindset there is still when you're building an open source project, the most important thing is the first thing is you have to really build a community. So before you're talking about building product, you have to building a project. So you have to find project community fit. So if you are not able to, not every open source project can build a community. I mean, there's tons of the kind of open source open, say source available project on GitHub, but not everyone is you able to build a community. So in order to build business, you need to build I would say a project community there. And so at that point, I think we are trying to build this project and community, find a project community fit and try to building a community around that. But I think there's a little bit misalignment between the leadership team, executive team, and the founding team with the investors. There's a certain misalignments into how we want to go to market, and that kind of leads into certain conversation is that we would take an exit on Splunk. So that was a little bit kind of history there. But one learning I get out of this is it's super critical for any open source business is to first build a community. If you don't have a community, don't talk about product. Because you don't know how people want to use your software, and then you don't know what exactly the product you're going to build to solve their problems there.
Yeah, that's a super important, message there, right? You have to have the community there. You have to be able to tap in, get feedback, and really drive the product towards that feedback. Avi, you were going to say something.
Yeah. So what was day zero of Apache Pulsar's community like? You have a piece of technology that is being used at Yahoo. I assume, and this is kind of like a lot of platform tech at big companies of like, it's useful at this big company, it's probably going to be useful at these other big companies, maybe. What was that first next step of shopping that around to other people?
Yeah, so I think when the project was open source, it was actually put in the GitHub. I think the first couple one is actually kind of coming out from Yahoo's related company. I think Yahoo Japan. Although it says Yahoo Japan, but it's a separate company. Yahoo Japan is the first one is actually start adopting Pulsar, and that's kind of probably I would say the day zero type of things is after open source is that once you have one company start using it, it actually create a network effect. Is that I would say this company use it, they will participate in the conversation, and in the GitHub you will see people outside of Yahoo start kind of making contribution, raising issues, sending PRs. That is the light that you see. That there's a community that you can form there, and then you can coming out with more. I would say more case studies to educate the industry, and people sometimes also need security or they need recognized. So if they feel beside Yahoo there's a second company start using it, then people start jumping in, and that is more and more people joining the community, and that became the creation of the community. But I want to kind of share a little bit. I think extending a little bit on this topic is the way how it works is definitely on the incubation stage. I think you still need to spend a lot of time going to different companies to give presentation, talking about the benefits of Pulsar and get the interest. And once they're interested, they will start looking into around. That takes time. But when we go to, I would say top level, graduate as top level project, is actually a reflection point. Is the people feel, a lot of you might still kind of watching this project because they feel, this is an incubating project. Although it's already running in production for many years, but right. Incubating is something people hesitate to jump in. But when they graduate, it became a kind of a turnkey, and a lot of people would start kind of looking into Pulsar and adopting Pulsar, and that's how the community would take off and grow from there.
So at the time that the project was incubating, was there also commercializing already happening at that point in time?
No. So.
Okay.
I think one of the big lessons that I learned is don't do any commercialization when you don't have community. So that means because the way how commercialize work is that you need to sell value. And what is the value? Open source is not a value you're selling to customers. Also, open source project itself, it has the value, but it's open source. You're not going to commercialize that. So the way how it works is that you really need to find the signal in the community. So people would use that technology, like that work. So you just keep working on that, bring more functionality into Pulsar, and make it attractive, and people start using it. And then at that point, people start asking question in the community: is, do you have a managed service? Do you have a commercial enterprise distribution? I think there's a security feature lacking. Is there any vendor providing that? If people start asking that, then that is the first signal you catch from the community, and that is the time you see people, there's an ask coming into the community asking for commercial, and that is the point that you start looking into how you should build a commercial product. And those initial people who ask questions will become your early adopters of your product. You use the relationship you build in the community to really talk to those users to ask for what they are looking for. Are you looking for Pulsar experts? Are you looking for, you don't have the resources to run a public cloud, and you're looking into a fully managed services? Are you looking into security related features? What are the features that you're looking for? And that is the conversation happening, will trigger the company looking into to build a product and find what is the product market fit in order to do the commercial.
Now, CJ, what's interesting is there's a lot of projects who seemingly give away all of those things that people would normally ask for out of the box.
Yeah.
Which makes it difficult to sometimes figure out which components they should commercialize or how they could make a business around it. And there might be some open source projects that are they're non-commercializable, right? You can't make a commercial entity out of them because of that.
Yeah.
So are you advocating potentially to say, let the community drive those enterprise features or the commercialization? Or are you saying maybe, think about that core, side of things, focus on those, and then as those requests come in on the periphery, that's where you want to focus on commercialization?
I think that's a good question. It really getting boiled down into one kind of what kind of model you're looking for. I think a lot of this model eventually going into two directions. One is more on the open core model, so meaning the core is open, and then you building certain enterprise tooling surrounding around that, and that is typically a kind of a licensing / distribution model. Is that I have an enterprise version building around that, and the other model is I usually see nowadays is called SaaS model, meaning a lot of features you can put in the open source in the public, but your core value is actually you providing a fully managed service on the SaaS side. People coming to you is not just because of the functionality in that open source project, is actually all the entire services, deployment, automation, configuration, management of that open source project, and make it available as a SaaS service on the public side. So that is kind of two different routes, and it will actually create two different mindset in terms of how you want to build a commercial open source business. So at the beginning, I think because Pulsar is in a way is a lot of this functionality like multi-tenancy, geo-replication is already available as a core, and it makes it's different from the other open source project, previous generation of messaging technology. We already solved that in the open source side, and if I want to go down a route, there's no huge differentiator from I would say functionality perspective, because multi-tenancy geo-replication, those are the biggest differentiators is already available in the open source version. So in the beginning, we decided to go down into the SaaS model. That's where as the creators of Pulsar, we know how to run Pulsar at very large scale, we can automate the entire thing. We know every single piece of the code inside out. We are able to build the entire automation tooling surrounding that. So we start building out our kind of a SaaS version and get started with the kind of managed service concept. But quickly as we talk, so this is kind of the first iteration, and then we start talking to the people. We realize people still need certain features that is missing in the open source side, like a lot of security and compliance related feature. Obviously, you cannot cover a lot, but majority of the community users probably don't care about security and compliance. Only those the big enterprises care about. So once we have this channel open, then we can have a conversation with customers. But then we're looking into, okay, maybe we should bring the version that we're running on the cloud and layer in certain security features and as a kind of a private cloud distribution and selling to customers. And that's kind of create a kind of a hybrid model, is that we have the SaaS model, using that SaaS model to get the customer feedback in, and then identify certain gaps in this open source project side, and then layer in certain enterprise features and selling that as a kind of a distribution to enterprises. So I wouldn't say choose one or another. It really depending on how you're looking into your open source, looking into your community, and find what is the value it delivered to your customer, and based on that value to build your first version. And then once you have the first version, then you have the channel, feedback channel that we can iterate and make the we can decide the route and the way to go.
Yeah. So CJ, you know what you're really saying is you kind of satisfy both that kind of open core like experience and the SaaS experience.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be mindful that there's some users, some customers who might have needs beyond what you can build in a public offering that is cookie cutter for everyone else. Yeah. There might be some features. And in my experience in a lot of the companies that I've worked with in the past, a lot of the largest customers are those ones that need the unique features, right? Yeah. You know, security, or they need integration with certain tools, or they need something so special that 90% of the market won't pay for it, but they're willing to pay a lot of money for it. And that's really attractive to a lot of businesses.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, I think on the open core side, that is exactly what's happening there. Yeah.
So I guess as your business grows, is the two sides of that kind of the SaaS, the SaaS that kind of gets a lot of people in, and then the more self-hosted, on-prem, these kinds of things. How are, at this stage in the company, how are you kind of splitting resources towards those two things? How do you decide what gets more attention and where one feature goes? These kinds of things. That's a very broad question. But
yeah, I think at the beginning when we're getting down in this route, we know. I think we earlier as an early startup company that you need to really focus, and obviously you cannot do two sides of things. But we quickly realized that the open core model, you still need to get rid of certain things. Meaning you for right now is we try to making sure even we build a SaaS, but also for the open core model is still using the same platform. That same platform is actually Kubernetes. So Kubernetes give us the power to build one software that is able to run on public cloud, and as well as be able to ship as a distribution to our customers, self-manage them. The only we have to say no to certain things is we have to say no if you don't have Kubernetes. So we need to cut the entire portion of customers, their potential coming to us. So say, I want this, I want enterprise distribution, but I'm on virtual machine, physical machine, I don't have Kubernetes. We have to say no to the customer, and that is able to make sure we really focus on one technical stack. potentially two different, I would say, slightly different kind of a distribution, one for cloud, one for internal, but we keep as close as possible, and really looking into like um, how is able how to have same a similar messaging that we want to deliver to our customers so that we can ensure, okay, we leverage the most common things across different model. And one thing I want to point out is interesting is as a streaming data system, it's quite different from databases because streaming data system is about streaming data across different environments. So a lot of this, because of the nature, is a lot of business of this is they're not just running on public cloud or their private cloud environment. They actually have hybrid. So some of them might be using AWS, but they have tons of the application running on hybrid sides. So having these two models is actually providing a flexibility for our business is that we are able to support enterprises that are looking into these multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environment, and that work out very well with these two different deployment options there.
So I imagine, given that there's a lot of flexibility with how different customers are using and deploying Pulsar, that you probably have to say no to a lot of things. I'm curious if there have been things that customers have asked for that were like really, really hard to make the decision of whether or not you'd prioritize it, and if you have like certain like that maybe you'll get to later, maybe you have regrets about it. Like how often is that happening?
I think in the beginning of the business, I would say it's definitely really challenging for us to say no. It's just because there's you don't have initial customers, and you don't know what people are looking for, and so you have to take the customer because it's a learning curve for us. So at the beginning, I think we don't know how to say no, or we don't have that power to say no to a lot of customers. But as the business grow, we're getting much better in terms of saying no to certain things because we have customers, we have customer paying tons of money for us. Then we know what the direction that we're heading down, so we have much clearer view is that we obviously want to build a standard product that is able to kind of be selling as a kind of a public offering and as well as a private cloud license. And so we start saying more and more no to certain things because it's just like we don't have a lot of energies to do many different options. So I think it's there's no formula to tell, okay, at what point you have to say no. It's more about a kind of learning curve. Is you are moving from you don't say no at all at the beginning towards the say no to help the business to stay focused on the most important thing that is able to deliver the value to majority of the customers there.
Yeah, and CJ, as you mentioned, like saying no is difficult early on. I think a lot of startups are in this mode, especially when they're small, of agreeing to a lot of activities, trying to make as much traction and get as much growth as fast as possible. But at a certain point, as you grow, you realize that your team's bigger, your community's bigger, and you have to start making changes. Tell us a little bit about your experience as you grew the company, how maybe the culture changed, but how your processes and your focus areas may have changed, going from that really small company to a slightly bigger company, a more a little less out of the small startup space to that growing company.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic. I definitely not have a lot of experience. I'm also a kind of a not first time founder, but first time CEO. So definitely, what I said here is just for reference of as an example. It could be bad, it could be uh, good, but just as a kind of our experience there. So my feeling is definitely at the beginning. This is probably a pattern for commercial open source business is because the business is get started with a community. So a lot of our, I would say, founders all founders are engineers, so we tend coming out from the engineer background. So in the beginning, I think when you building out this business is we all wearing engineer hats, working on the community and collaborating with different engineers on improving that project. So in the beginning, I think the entire culture is more engineer-driven culture. So we're looking really closely on engineer problems, and that's how kind of how we evolve in the beginning. But as we grow, when you start having the first customer, 10 customers, first 10 customer, you will start seeing different aspects. Because I think initial a lot of these I would say initial community users are more technical, while you looking into once you have start having customers, a lot of these persona became users. Users, not the contributors. They don't understand the technology a lot. They are the users. They're looking into the developer experience. They're looking into user experience. They're looking into easy use of the technology. So the way how the focus would be shifted from solving those hardcore technical questions like scalability, load balancer, became okay. How I can improve the entire user experience, developer experience, improving the documentation, the onboarding journey. That would become the focus, and that is where the product mindset would coming in. Is that I need to looking into the problem not from engineer perspective rather than from end user perspective, and then as you scaling up more, then you have more people that might never heard about Pulsar, they never used Pulsar before. Then how you can educate them about Pulsar, how they can get started with Pulsar, how they can use our product to mitigate the learning curve. That will become another focus. And you also have the customers coming from enterprises looking for enterprise features. So you will be looking into how you would prioritize your engineering resources between hardcore engineer problems, these enterprise features are majority of these user experience development experience problems, and that is where the prioritization would become complicated, and the collaboration between product engineer and potential customer facing teams would require more collaboration interaction there. So that's how I would say that's the requirement change would helping would drive the change on the organization. So at the beginning, you have a bunch of contributors really working on hardcore problems. The engineering team is the main drive force. As we're looking into more average entry level users, mindset will coming in, so that will become product and engineer collaborations that would need to happen in order to drive that force going forward. Once you have more customers, especially you have the enterprise customers, then the customer sales team, your customer facing team will coming in, then product customer facing team engineer would have to cooperate in order to go there. So that's kind of the iteration from different stage. But obviously, I think there's no, I would say there's no formula. It's more how the team can really learning to work together. We try to build a culture is really open, and transparent. So a lot of this communication can happen in a public channel. So in that way, we can ensure like the team, between teams, there's a effective collaborations. That is the way how I usually see that is that you no matter what users you're dealing with, what state or persona you're dealing with, at the end of the day, the founder need to build is an effective engine. The engine that is able to collaborate with each other, that is able to prioritize and address different personas at different stage. That's my view. Yeah.
I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that we talk to in the open source space are kind of right at the cusp of making this transition of, as you said, like focusing, very engineer driven and focused, and kind of switching more to users and customers, and starting to bridge that gap as you start to build the business. So where you are at StreamNative right now, what are the metrics that you're really looking at to know if your initiatives are doing good? I think at this point now you have revenue that you're looking at, but on the open source side, as it relates to that, what are the main metrics that matter most at StreamNative?
Yeah, so the way how we're looking into this
Matt's
is
putting on a different hat.
Okay, I like that.
We're really ready for this answer.
So I think at the end of the day is we definitely have quite a lot of learning curve there. At the end of the day, we have to find what is the most effective channel. We tried at the beginning. I think community is definitely the channel, and in the middle, I think we still kind of try a bunch of different things. But at the end of the day, what we found is community is still the most effective channel for open source business. So the way how I'm looking into the metric is obviously ARR is in the current economy that the founders, executive, the investor, the board that need to looking into. But at the same time is what drives the ARR is how large is your community and how many people is using this technology, and how we can convert these open source users to I would say paying customers. So that's I would say that's the foundation. And so meaning how large of the community, I think Matt, we have a lot of conversation with Matt in terms of how we want to measure the community metrics. But at the end of the day, I think it will become people. So people meaning either you are contributors, that is how many people you're contributing there. Users, how many users that are using open source Pulsar. The other one is I would say influencer. They are not directing using Pulsar, but they might writing articles. They might be passionate about these like Pulsar. So those are kind of two different metrics that I was looking into the community, and that would determine how large the community we can go, and then that would determine what is the cap of our entire business can go from there.
Now it's interesting because with that there's a lot of different levers that you can pull, right? So you look at the number of contributors, the number of users. Obviously growing the numbers important, but also improving the efficiency where they see value in actually paying for something, right? Yeah. So there's two sides to that coin. I think a lot of times people focus on just get more contributors, just get more and more and more. But there's also a lot of those, efficiencies. And how do we say, like, what's so compelling to get them to actually purchase?
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with that.
Not just purchase. I think Matt touched a really good point. Is how effective the community channel it is how the conversion that will go there. But since Matt, you mentioned about contributor, I want to kind of use an example. Is those three different metrics is actually changing over time. At the beginning, I think you really focus on contributor. As you move, you're probably looking into influencer. Then you're looking into users. So I think you probably care all three at different stage, but you put different weights at different stage. For example, at the beginning, we put a lot of efforts on the contributor because that is the way how early adopters were using Pulsar. They use it, they contribute it because the project is not perfect, it's still not mature enough, so you still need to fix bug. So like having contributor contributing, having those contributors talking about Pulsar, that is the way how you plant the seeds of the community and then going from there. But as you grow there, you probably don't need a lot of contributors, or you're looking more these users. So that means then how can you get people from not knowing about Pulsar towards writing the first application? That is the channel. That is the path that we need to shorten. And how to shorten that? Would be the community focus. Is that are we going to optimize the documentation? Are we going to optimize the entire download? So that we can get people from doesn't know about Pulsar towards building the first application. Then this is the top funnel, and then once they build the first application, then how we can drive them to use more features there. Then that is going through the rest of the I would say nurturing process is to get people excited about more features, excited about kind of a lot of benefits coming out of Pulsar, and then you are able to insert certain like interactions through your DevRel team, through your potential support team or account executive to work with those people in that journey.
Do you find that it's so when you talk about things like optimizing docs to increase, the rate at which people are converting, or these kinds of optimizations of the user journey, do you find that it is difficult to convince the broader community that those things are worth it to people that are not commercializing the project? Do you find that it is more purely self-interest, or comes off as very self-interested, or do you feel like the community is also kind of aligned that helps the whole project? How do you message that to the community?
I think in general, people have a feeling documentation is important, but a lot of engineer, even as an engineer, I don't like writing documentation. I think that is the nature of engineer. But everyone in the community understand, okay, that in order for the project, I think documentation is the best one. So I wouldn't say there's certain involvements coming from community would be participate in the documentation just because people think about that. But majority of the driving force would probably be falling into a commercial entity, is because that is the way how you're looking into optimizing, and you're really thinking about how to drive the community goals, how to optimizing the entire journey in there. And without a commercial entity behind that, I don't think there's a really working community approach to drive that. That's my 2 cents, but Matt might have a different view.
Oh no, I mean, that's a whole deeper discussion, and we are closing, and we want to be sensitive of everybody's time here. So I want to end this with a question that I always like to ask: is you've gone through a multi-year journey, multiple companies. What would be the one piece of advice that you wish you knew early on when you started this?
I think is learning how to say no, being firm at saying no. If I know from day one, I think that would be a complete different journey.
Fair enough. Yeah, learning to say no is important because realistically, until you can start to say no, you're going to always fall behind and struggle. It helps
not
focus
just in business,
things.
in life.
in life. Yes. So I'm going to say no more. Say no.
Oh, not at work though.
Fair enough. All right, CJ, I want to thank you for coming on and chatting with us today. This was great. Do appreciate catching up with you.
Thank you everyone.
Yep. Thanks everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Until next time, we'll see you later.